Welcome to Garden Views, interesting conversations with interesting people who have done and/or are doing interesting things. So sit back and enjoy. Welcome everybody into Garden Views. We have a returning guest this week. This is Geoff Robertson. And he was our crypto expert a few months ago. And for those of you who don't know a lot about cryptocurrency, or think you do, but you're not sure and you didn't hear the prior show, I'd recommend that you listen to it. Geoff is very much an advocate for cryptocurrency. I'm a bit of a skeptic, and this isn't exactly a 201 course or podcast. It's going to sort of go into sort of some of the items that have emerged, some of the developing issues which seem to be timely. We're recording this on July 13th. I'm sure I'll drop this, before August rolls around. So, Geoff, thanks very much for coming into Garden Views. How's everything going?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me back.
All right, cool. No, it's our pleasure. Thank you for coming back. So I reached out to you, and you're always very gracious. And, a few questions, basics. What's an NFT and what's their relationship to crypto? But more importantly, every day you see some article, on, man loses his down payment because he invested all in crypto. One of the major crypto outlets has gone bankrupt and has been insolvent all along. There seems to be a little bit of volatility, or maybe a lot of volatility, and just what's going on there? Is this just a new market acting like a new market where they're bad players? What are we seeing? And tell us what to look out for, and whether if you're a crypto investor or not, whether you should panic or not.
Sure. Yeah, I think you said it pretty well with a new market acting like a new market. But I'm thinking back to our first kind of session, and one thing that I was really hoping to try to express is that if you're looking at what's going on from like a financial or a US dollar perspective, you've kind of missed the point of what's kind of emerging right now. And though, of course, US dollar is very much tied to it, people are either making lots of money, they're losing lots of money because of it. There's an underlying technology that should be the main focus and what should be the primary topic. Like, what's being built? What does this infrastructure provide us as a species? And I can dive into NFTs. I can kind of dive into how they relate to the blockchain if you want. But I just wanted to make sure that
Sure.
When we talk about like the financial aspect of this, I of course am not advocating from a financial perspective, you need to invest in cryptocurrencies. It's more that like we now have these new world computers that can keep track of information for us. They transcend government and corporate control. And because they transcend government and corporate control and nobody owns them, who's paying for it? Well, they pay for themselves because they have their own economy. And they're, first and foremost, the cryptocurrencies of the economy of these world computers. Bitcoin was the first one. Like the first, computer that ever came out there. It's kind of really can do basic math, and it can really only keep track of who has what Bitcoin. But more complex systems have been made. Ethereum is kind of like the foremost system out there. There's like Solana and other ones like that, but they do far more. They keep track of lots of other things, including NFTs or non-fungible tokens. So basically, you have a system that like can not only keep track of like who has Ether, the underlying cryptocurrency for Ethereum, but any token that you mint on that system. And so when you have like a computer that anybody can use, that anybody can trust, it's not owned by any government or any corporation, it becomes trustless, meaning like they don't have to worry about trust for it to keep track of information for them. And that's what I think we should be really focusing on here, is that's what has emerged with this new technology.
So if you're someone who doesn't have faith in governments, or even if you do, but you just don't, you want to be independent of governments, or you're afraid of the new world order, you can sort of forge your own or be part of an alternative new world order, one that's more to your liking. And I don't mean
I wouldn't say that. It's just that like I just look at the trajectory of like our species from an anthropological standpoint. Like, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with like this is kind of a joke, but somewhat serious as what zoo theory is, and that like there are other beings out there that are like kind of watching us.
Oh,
And right now they're going. Oh, they've made it to the world computer stage. They finally figured out how to build a world computer that they can all use to keep track of information for themselves, and they don't have to rely on some company that's going to steal their data or their money or something. But that's just kind of like how I look at it. It's like it's more of like an evolutionary step for our species.
Right. Now, clearly you don't listen to Garden of Doom, because of course I'm familiar with zoo theory. But for those who don't, also don't listen to Garden of Doom, but you've managed to stumble upon this show, or you've chosen this one instead of its sister shows. Zoo theory is basically that we are being observed. We've always been observed. Maybe we've been panspermia or whatever, but maybe not even always being observed. But for whatever it is, we're being observed now. At some point, we became we were made, our presence was made aware to some other intergalactic species or maybe plural, and they're watching us and seeing how our progress is going, and so they're seeing this and saying, oh, that's cool, that's a sign of progress.
Yeah, that's how I would look at it. And of course, like as you said, with any market, there's going to be issues. There are human beings involved, so of course there's going to be scams. Like there's lots and lots of scams. There's always bad actors. But I think that if you try to look at it from the perspective of investing in a world computer, like if that's how you look at this, I want to invest in world computing, something that's going to help our species keep track of stuff, then that will help guide you in your decision-making process if you do choose to invest in the stuff, right? There's a lot of talk about things like Dogecoin and Shiba Inu and all the NFT bullshit that happened in the past couple of years, where to me that's like kind of a runaway situation. And again, I'm not saying if you choose to invest in something like that, then that's up to you. It's just that like when you approach this, I just highly advocate that you think of it from the perspective of, okay, I want to think of these machines as something that keeps track of information for us, and that's what I'm investing in, not I'm trying to get rich quick.
Well, let's get this out of the way early. Probably should have done it at the very beginning, but this is not an investment show. This is not a financial advice show. This is for information, education, whatever you want to take from it. But no one here is your financial planner. You should talk to your own professionals. Use your own judgment, or if you have bad judgment, just talk to your professionals. Whatever it is, don't rely on us. This is just for information, and you should certainly weigh it against other stuff. But Geoff is a great resource. It's making himself available, and he believes in sort of the idealization, not the idealization in idolatry, but in that it's an ideal. It's more of an ideal situation to be part of this voluntary community that is sort of safeguarded by these independent computers. When you say that the computer can keep track of stuff, what kind of stuff do you mean? What you can do it including but not limited to list, which is of course a lawyer's favorite tactic, the including but not limited to.
Yeah, I'll try to do a good job of bringing stuff concisely. What kinds of information? All right, so when it comes to the traditional internet, there's a term for this, I forget what it's called, but there's this problem of like it's hard to keep track of the original copy of something with digital stuff. You can make duplicates. Like if I send you a photo on my phone, now we both have that file, and it's hard to keep track of like who has like the original. Well, the way that these world computers work, and I don't want to go through I do have a very extensive analogy that I can talk about. I can direct you to some videos that I've made that go through it. But basically, you just think of a bunch of computers sitting around a poker table, and they're all watching poker chips on that table being moved around. Who has what when they get created. Basically, anything on that poker table gets kept track of by these computers, and they're all keeping the same documents. And each of their documents, it's basically blockchain. Think of each one of them taking like a never-ending photo strip of pictures of the poker table, and they all have the same copy. And every time they take a new photo, after something changes, they all get a copy of it and it adds to the blockchain. Again, I'll give you a link later that you can go watch those.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make here is like they're watching this decentralized ledger, and when something gets put on that decentralized ledger, say an NFT gets minted, I'm going to create an NFT, and this NFT is going to represent a piece of artwork, or it's going to represent my card title, right? You have a singular entity that can't be duplicated. Now, somebody could try to like fake mint something. Yeah, that can happen. But the original, if minted by the person who owns it from their wallet, right? Everyone has a wallet that connects to them. It can't be duplicated, and it can be kept track of for perpetuity, like immutably, completely transparent. You can always see where that's moved. And from when you think about art, and this is kind of like I have my theory why NFTs and art have become the first thing that this technology has really been used for, and that's that the people who built it are going to start using it for their other side project, which is I'm going to use it to kind of like try to sell my artwork in digital format. But I think what you're going to start to see is it will start to represent more concrete objects, like I said, like a car title or something like that, where you buy a car and you get transferred the NFT that represents the title. That NFT could be in the wallet that's on your phone, and when you approach your car, it unlocks and turns on because it knows it's you. That kind of thing. That's what might be coming down the road with this technology. And no one else can get that unless you transfer them the NFT. You send it to their wallet. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so basically all these like distributed computers all over the world are keeping track of this information for us. And in order to use them, you have to pay like a fee. Every time you send something or mint something on these platforms, you have to pay a fee. And that fee is paid in the underlying cryptocurrency. So again, when I was saying, if these things transcend corporate or government control, who's paying for them? They have to pay for themselves, right? It can't be in U.S. dollars or like rubles or something like that. It has to be its own thing. And that's the first and foremost point of cryptocurrency is that it's the underlying economy of these world computers. And so if you want it to do something for you, like a jukebox, you have to put not a quarter, like a U.S. quarter in it, but you got to pay the jukebox to play the song for you. And so you pay the jukebox in cryptocurrency.
So you need to use the cryptocurrency because otherwise it can't sustain itself. That makes it sustainable because if you were using a different currency in the cryptocurrency economy, I mean, that's sort of like an underlying sign of lack of confidence. But I'm going not a but this is a question. Am I correct if you had, another currency, you could convert it into the cryptocurrency universe? Is there like a bank or an exchange?
Oh, absolutely. And so this is where it's a great question. And I think about where to start because there's so much information that I could try to convey here to help give you an answer. The most basic answer here, is there a bank? Yes, there are lots of on and off ramps out there. Coinbase is one of the biggest ones in America. It's one of the main ones. It's dealing with a lot of problems right now as a business because it grew very, 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 very quickly over the past couple of years, and now we're going into what we call crypto winter, which I can talk about later. It's actually very common. It happens every 4 years. So they're kind of dealing with that right now. But these are on and off ramps that you can use to buy cryptocurrency. And they can also hold it for you. They become the custodians of it. So you can basically set up a bank account with Coinbase or other platforms like it. I'm not advocating or trying to sell Coinbase here. It's just like a very familiar one. And you can buy and exchange cryptocurrency through that platform. So it becomes an on and off ramp for your US dollar. Now, once you have cryptocurrency, you can start using it throughout Web3. And so Web3 is kind of an umbrella term that we'll use to talk about what's being developed on the internet that really uses blockchain as its underlying storage mechanism of data. So with Web2, we have servers, we have clouds. These things are owned by corporations. Like, where does Facebook keep all of its data? Like, it has its own servers. Where does Google keep all of its data? It has its own servers. If something were to happen to them, then the data gets lost. With Web3, you have these decentralized world computers that store the data for you. And so Web3 kind of uses those to keep track of information. So as you move around in Web3, the cryptocurrency you can use that to pay for things or buy goods. So you use them as on and off, these banks as on and off ramps, and then once you get into the system, you can use the cryptocurrency. And think of it kind of like if you went to a different country. This is kind of a stretch analogy, but like if you were to go to a different country to Europe, you would have to exchange things for the euro, right? Like while you're there, if you want to buy something, you got to pay for it with the euro. So think of it like that. If you want to interact with Web3, you're going to have to pay for things with cryptocurrency.
Sure. Is there a credit card that operates in both worlds? You know how like when you go to a different country, people say, use your American Express card because it'll always give you the best conversion rate. is there like some credit card that operates in both worlds, like you maximize your benefit? You can buy, or is that just not a thing?
I'm sure. No, I'm sure there is. I know that a lot of I'm pretty sure Coinbase has like a checking card that you can use. And what it would do is if you were in, let's say you went to a restaurant and you paid for something in U.S. dollars, it would just probably, maybe sell up. I'm not sure how it works. I don't have one, but I'm assuming what it does, it deducts it from your cryptocurrency holdings. Like we would sell some of it to pay it. And
was your crypto credit not good enough to get one?
oh no, I just have never really felt the need for it.
I'm kidding.
Because I'm what you call a hodler, a holder. Like I don't because I don't use my. This all goes back to my point. Like if you're investing in cryptocurrency to make money, then you've already missed the point of what's going on.
Right.
So I don't really use my cryptocurrency to pay for goods in U.S. dollars. I use it to interact with Web3.
Is there I
hold on to it because I know this was going to happen in the future, or I believe this was going to happen in the future.
Is there such a thing as crypto credit? Is there like a credit score equivalent for cryptocurrency?
So it's. I get what you're saying here. I'm not sure. It's another thing that goes on with Web3 is this whole DeFi. I heard this decentralized finance, and one of the things that's being made possible by these world computers is you may have heard the term smart contracts, where you can write code that will conduct some sort of if X then Y procedure for you automatically if conditions are met. And so people are using this to really expand DeFi, where you can get loans with your own cryptocurrency. So I could go put up like some Bitcoin. It would give me whatever cryptocurrency that I wanted that I could then go use to do something else with, right? And once I pay it back, I get my Bitcoin back. There's also staking, which is a really big thing, where if you have a certain amount of cryptocurrency with that goes by this proof of stake mechanism, which is something that Ethereum is switching to and currently is in the process of finalizing. But you can put your cryptocurrency into like a wallet that helps support the network. It becomes one of these nodes that's watching the poker table I was talking about and keeping track of everything. You will earn more cryptocurrency, and so you can just put it up and basically earn. We can call it interest, but it's more of like a reward for having it up there, and then you can use that. Just making more of it, and you can use it however you like. But is there some sort of credit score for people with cryptocurrency? Not that I know of. But it does. There's a lot of ways that you can leverage this new technology to go about getting loans and things like that without the need of having your credit score checked.
Okay. Now, you said earlier something called crypto winter, which sounds a lot like Ned Stark saying winter is coming. So it sounds a little ominous. So what is crypto winter? It comes every 4 years. So
yeah, it comes about every 4 years.
It's like a leap year.
Yeah, let's kind of roll back to about 2008. In 2008, this white paper came out. It was the first time Bitcoin was introduced to the world, and it was put out as like a peer-to-peer payment system. Well, I've always because I taught a course for a few years at University of Maryland's Human Computer Interaction Master's Program about blockchain, what was going on, helping kids that do design, human computer interaction design, about the technology, the differences that it kind of, the implications that it imposes when it comes to UX design, user experience design. But the way I've always explained this to them is think of it as a world computer, because then you as human computer interaction students can think of it as human world computer interaction. And so I've always expressed that the Bitcoin white paper wasn't necessarily like a peer-to-peer financial payment thing. It was more so a blueprint of how do you build a world computer. Because since then, people have taken this concept and really expanded it and made it into something far more extensive. Now, part of the way Bitcoin works is you have these nodes all over the world, like I was talking about, you have computers all over the world that are kind of watching this decentralized ledger and keeping track of what is going on. With Bitcoin, every 10 minutes, those computers have to come to a consensus on what just happened, like what kind of transactions happened. And so the computers come to an agreement on how it went down, and a new block gets added to the blockchain. Basically, if you think of the computers looking at this poker table, and Bitcoin gets moved around to different wallets. They take a photo of it when they all agree on it, and they all get a copy of that photo, and it goes on top of the strip of photos that they've been collecting. Now, the computer that went first in terms of identifying those changes gets a reward, more Bitcoin. Basically, when the computer says, "Oh, I'm going to identify the changes. I go first, and if everyone agrees with me, then a new block gets added, and I get a reward in Bitcoin." Now, every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that computer gets for the reward gets cut in half. It's called a halving, and it's part of the economic programming that has gone into Bitcoin. People talk about who is Satoshi Nakamoto, the guy, person, or they, whoever it is that invented Bitcoin. Most likely, it's a group of people, given the complexity of the different professional areas that have gone into it, from cryptology, computer programming, computer engineering, economics, just like aspects of human social behavior. All these things have kind of gone into the thinking of Bitcoin. And so in order to kind of decrease supply, right, and therefore increasing demand, every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that a node receives when it forms a new block gets cut in half. And so if you look at the trajectory of Bitcoin from if you do chart analysis on for trading or something like that, you can see its progress, and that it goes through these cycles every 4 years, where about a year or so after the halving, you get this big bubble, and then it pops and it goes down, right? And you go into this crypto winter. And it seems that cryptocurrencies have all followed this. It happened in 2014, it happened in 2018, it's now happening in 2022, right? About every 4 years this happens. Now, what's happened also, and again, I'm not an economist, I'm not a trader, I don't do this stuff, but it's kind of obvious. Like, what else is going on right now is we have another market downturn for other reasons, right? We have inflation and stuff. So this crypto winter is a little bit deeper than they have been in the past, but this is par for the course for cryptocurrencies, that you have these cycles. So about every 4 years, it goes up, 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 and then down, 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 down. And then during this time, this is my favorite time, because this is a time where all of the infrastructure starts getting built behind the scenes. While the general public is off dealing with something else and not watching, the news about Bitcoin, all of the teams, all the projects and things like that have kind of survived thus far are building more and more infrastructure. And you'll see all of this advancement the next time that this cycle starts kind of coming through. NFTs, the Metaverse, this stuff was not even talked about that much during the 2018 cycle. 4 years later, all of a sudden, the Metaverse and NFTs are the biggest thing during this cycle. Bitcoin and Ethereum still were, very big drivers, during that cycle. But there's all this other new stuff that has been built on top of the foundation of those things that we saw. And so I suspect in another 4 years, this cycle will happen again.
Is this because people are taking out they're converting the Bitcoin into regular dollars to cover other things, and so they're underfunding the market, or it's just a typical economics, or is it literally because this halving happens that there's less supply, so the demand is there, so people who are trying to buy into it, they need to do something else with their money just because there's less availability?
Yeah, I think that the complexities of the market are so far advanced in terms of the complexity that my mind will never, I don't have the answer to that. I just know that it seems to follow this pattern, and that this kind of thing, the supply of Bitcoin, the halving, all of that was taken into consideration when designing the programming behind Bitcoin to try to keep its value increasing over time.
Okay.
At some point, they will have mined all of the Bitcoin possible. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Right now, I think they've mined about 18 million. I'm not really sure. Don't quote me on that. And given the next 25 to 50 years, they'll probably mine the rest, because it will take longer to do it, because the reward structure keeps decreasing. And once they've, just to throw this out there, once they finally mined all the Bitcoin, the incentive for people to continue to keep track of information, have these computers out there, is the transaction fees. Because every time you send Bitcoin to somebody, you have to pay at the jukebox a little bit in Bitcoin. And that is also what is part of the reward that these miners, these nodes, get when they create a block.
But to be clear, the mining can only mine so much Bitcoin. It's not like if I came in with $100 billion that I could get that other 3 million Bitcoin. It doesn't work that way.
Correct. It would have to be created. So think again, like all of these computers looking at this poker table, when they all come to consensus on all the transactions that's occurred, they take a photo of the table, they all get a copy, and the computer that wins first in their wallet, that's like, think of the poker chips that sit in front of a poker player, all of a sudden, chink, 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 like a couple more get added to it. It gets created by the system. And because it's on the poker table, it now gets kept track of by everybody watching the poker table. So it gets added to that system. But now, every 4 years, the number of Bitcoin that get added each time a new block is made gets cut in half until eventually there will be no more Bitcoin being added to the poker table. Only the Bitcoin that exists on that poker table will be what is watched, and the reward that these nodes get for watching it will be just the transaction fees that occur when you pass a Bitcoin across the table to another wallet.
So these nodes are sort of individual business communities, sort of like cooperatives?
That's a good question. So here's, you get into a lot of the philosophical discussions that come with how all this stuff works. When it comes to how this consensus happens on these different systems, and we can look at Bitcoin and we can look at Ethereum as examples, there are two main flavors out there. There's what's called proof of work, and then there's proof of stake. Currently, Bitcoin is proof of work. It's what it's always been. Ethereum is proof of work now, but it is transitioning to proof of stake. Proof of work means that in order for you to mine Bitcoin, to have your computer be part of the network that's watching this decentralized ledger and keeping track of things and being rewarded for when you accurately identify the changes that were made, you have to have a very powerful computer, a mining rig as they call it. And the reason that you have to have a very powerful computer is that proof of work operates on the fact that the computer that goes first does so because they're solving a very complex cryptographic puzzle. And I heard one engineer give an analogy once that I think is kind of the best way to do it. Like, imagine a bunch of computers again sitting around the poker table, and a bunch of stuff happens. One of them needs to get chosen to go first. Well, who gets chosen to go first? Well, they all have a boggle set in front of them. What boggle is like a little dish of dice, right? And their goal is to shake the tray until you get all A's across the top, right? And that's something that's very hard to do, but very easy to verify. Meaning, the second one of them gets it right, all the other computers can look across the table like, oh, fuck, Bob got it, right? Like, Bob gets to go first because he solved the cryptographic puzzle. And so it's a little bit more complex. The cryptographic puzzle has to do with cryptographically tying all the new transaction data to a prior block, but it's just a mathematical equation that is trying to solve. And so to do that, you have to have a very powerful computer with a lot of a good CPU in it, because it has to do it. It has to shake that boggle set really, 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 really fast. And so the average person, you and I, we can't really mine Bitcoin because we can't compete with that. And you do have businesses who have set up their entire purpose as mining Bitcoin. They just buy up mining rigs, and that's all that they do is mine Bitcoin. Thus, this kind of issue of like, does that start to lead to some form of centralization where you have like some sort of company or business that has a lot of the mining rigs and therefore is controlling more of the nodes that are out there. Now, the other flavor that I mentioned is proof of stake. And so proof of stake is different from proof of work. The cryptographic puzzle aspect is not part of it. Instead, and I mentioned this earlier, what you do is you put up some of your cryptocurrency in a wallet. Say, okay, I've got some Ethereum, I'm going to put it in my wallet, and it's going to get locked in there, and that wallet is going to be on a computer that helps keep track of what's on the poker table. Now, the good news with this is anybody can do this. You can do this with your own computer. You don't need a specialized rig. You just need some Ethereum. And you can stake it, and you can just let your computer be part of the group of computers looking at that poker table to help keep track of things. The way I would explain it is think of them as like a raffle ticket. There's like a big punch bowl in the middle of the poker table that has raffle tickets that coincide with everybody's like coins in their wallet. And if yours gets picked every time that you need to make a new block, then you're the one that gets the reward. And so here comes the kind of fundamental problem with that. Those that have more tokens have more tickets in the raffle bowl. and have a higher chance of being picked to go first. So there's the possibility of people being able to, have the issue of centralization becomes problematic when you look at it from that standpoint.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm sure you probably have some questions.
Yeah, though that one maybe is beyond my ability to formulate a question to ask about.
Okay.
So let's go to some of the simpler stuff. As you said, first of all, let's define what an NFT is and how it's related, and then what you were talking about with the metaverse and how is that related to a cryptocurrency.
Sure. So with the Ethereum, again, I use Ethereum because was the first system to really do this. There are other ones out there like Solana, but I like to talk about Ethereum. With the Ethereum World Computer, not only does it keep track of who has what Ethereum, but it can keep track of other tokens. And so you can come to the Ethereum World Computer and say, I want to generate a whole new set of poker chips, right? And they get thrown on the table. And what you can, therefore, are kept track of by all of the computers that are watching it. And you can start assigning different things to these tokens, like pieces of art, like really anything that you want. Think of them as kind of like a digital capsule that you can put anything you kind of want into it, and it will be kept track of for perpetuity by the Ethereum World Computer. And so what we saw, over the past couple of years is people using this to keep track of artwork, people putting up their digital artwork and selling it. And yeah, there's a lot of bullshit out there. For me, I think it's really cool because it gives artists genuine artists, another avenue in which to make money off from patrons, right? And another way that I look at this is like, if you're an artist, you most likely have to have digital presence anyways. You go onto Instagram, other forms of social media, and you're posting your content. You got to post it there for free just to stay relevant. Well, what if there is a way for people to buy that content? You know what I mean? There's a way for someone to be like, I really love that piece of art. I want to patron you as an artist. I'm going to buy your NFT. So what you're already posting to the internet could have value. But because it's all being tied to that NFT, it's like everyone can see who owns that NFT. It's not like it's ambiguous who has it. It's one very specific wallet it can be in at a time.
Here's where I lose that train. I'm an artist. I'm Leonardo da Vinci. I make beautiful oil paintings. I want to make that as an NFT, but the best I can do is sell them a digital version, which I guess is a e-lithograph, basically. So the original oil painting is still out there in the universe. You, as the buyer, just may have the only digital version of it.
Mm-hmm. So it offers some unique opportunities to be very inventive. And it's a great point that you bring up. And I think, again, this is an opportunity for there to be some really cool ways of leveraging this technology. Okay. So when it comes to physical art, yeah, there's an issue when it's not digitalized. Like when you look at a lot of this artwork that's with the NFTs, these are all digital pieces of artwork. They are generated in some sort of digital program. Okay. They were not created physically. They were created digitally. And this is a way of keeping track of digital art with the same, and there's a word for it. Give me a second to try to remember it. Oh, my God. Hold on one second. What's that? Provenance. My wife chimes in. Yeah, the provenance of a piece of artwork. Basically, it's history.
The provenance, is that the word she said?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, fancy.
So, like with art, like if you're Leonardo da Vinci, how do you prove that this is something that came from him? Like there should be paperwork. There's a paper trail that leads it back that says that this is authentic. Well, with NFTs, that is never questioned because you can always see who minted that NFT first and where it went. That is totally transparent in a way that is not possible right now in the physical art world. And I'm sure that you can go and watch a couple documentaries on Netflix to see just how often like fake art gets sold.
Sure.
So here's a way to leverage NFTs to maybe help with that. Let's say you get someone, they find a hidden compartment in an attic someplace when they're renovating the house. And in there, they find what is signed as like a lost Monet painting. Right? Holy shit. So they take it to somebody who can verify that it is actually a Monet. Well, what they could do is they could create an NFT that represents that physical thing in a digital format. And this is going with a way of how you could leverage NFTs to aid in physical art. And what you do is you have an NFT that represents it digitally. And let's say you put an RF chip, like on the painting itself, something that has like data tied to it that stores the information about that NFT. Now, when that painting moves from one museum to the other, you also have to transfer the NFT along with it. And so here comes, it's a little bit of cultural adoption that has to come with it, but it's a kind of thing where like at some point we will be thinking, okay, you're handing me this, where's the NFT that goes along with it? Right. Where's the NFT of authenticity that comes with it? If you don't have it and it doesn't match the data that's on this thing, then it's fake and I don't trust it.
Does that also authenticate the uniqueness of it? So if I was back to the Monet, I make a digital Monet, I sell it with the RF chip, but I decide I'm sneaky, I want to make a whole bunch of them. Will the computer, the blockchains, will they recognize it? Hey, there's already one out there. This is a copy.
Well, so it would come from the wallet that you minted from. So everybody has a wallet when you go on to Web3. And the wallet is something that is very important to kind of understand because it's very fundamental to how all this works. And I have to kind of roll back a little bit here to give some explanation. Web2, when you go and check into your Google account or your bank account or whatever profile that you have with some sort of platform, what do? You enter in your login credentials. Oh, there's my email address, and here is my password. And what happens is you submit that, and that gets sent to the backend, server or cloud or wherever that's your information is being stored, and it authenticates it. Oh yeah, we have all this data, and the access credentials for this data are that email address and that password. You now have access to all this data, and you can interact. That's what happens when you sign in to various things. The problem with that is like the backend has all that data about you, and it's sold. Like that's not a conspiracy theory. It gets stolen, it gets sold. People are using your data to make money. With Web3, you don't have login credentials anymore. What you have is a wallet private key, and that private key connects to a public key on the ledger, the blockchain system, the Ethereum world computer, if you will. And so when your wallet connects to the world computer with that private key, it acts like your login credentials. And so whatever you do on the world computer gets tied back to that wallet. And this is actually kind of what makes it kind of special when it comes to moving around Web3. For your information from Facebook to connect with that, like your banks or something like that, you have to have APIs talking to one another. That's a lot of infrastructure that has to be passed and maintained. With Web3, you just have your private key, and everything that's tied to you follows you around. You don't need any of that. It just follows you. So when you go, let's say that you find this Monet and you donate it to a museum. The museum would have a wallet that is minting NFTs that correspond with all of the art that they are minting NFTs for. We know that is the Smithsonian's wallet. When they mint NFTs, they are doing it to their Smithsonian token type, like they have their own token type that they've created. And so anything that is minted under that wallet, we know is the Smithsonian. Anybody else that mints something claiming that it's this Monet is not the right one. It's a fraud because it's not coming from the wallet we know is connected to the Smithsonian.
So the computer knows that there's the original, whether it was the real original or just someone did something first. It's been done once and it can't be done again.
I mean, you could do it. You could take a photo of it, but then again, you can also go to a gift shop at the Louvre and buy a poster of the Mona Lisa and put up on your wall. You're not fooling anybody. It's not the Mona Lisa. We all know it's a copy, right?
Right.
The real one is being hung up on the wall and having cake thrown at it. From, I don't know if you remember that news story from a couple
I do.
weeks ago.
Yep, I
anyway,
do.
But you see my point. Like, duplication of art isn't anything new. People can do it, but it's like there's just a social understanding of which one is the original, and it's authenticated by some sort of like entity that oversees it. The difference here is that you're just using the world computer to keep track of who has the NFT. The Smithsonian Institution uses their wallet to create an NFT that represents this thing in digital format, and that token then follows the painting around to the various museums it goes to for exhibition, and we can see it move from wallet to wallet as it does.
Okay, so it's not a fail-safe about people doing knockoffs. It's not its own sort of copyright protection, copyright police within the system. No. Okay, gotcha. All right, all right. So the next one was Metaverse.
So the Metaverse is another great umbrella term right now, and it's going to take years to find really what this is. But I like to think of it as with Web 3. Think of it as Web 3D, Web 3-dimensional. Both that which gets expanded out into our physical world through augmented reality, or what's it called, XR, immersive reality, like different kinds of reality. We can wear glasses and it like overlays information, right? All that information is being pulled from the web, is part of the web, but it is augmented on top of our 3-dimensional physical world. But it also means the 3-dimensional world in a virtual sense, where like video games are kind of that way right now. You can go into a 3-dimensional world and walk around, but if you do it with a VR headset, it becomes all the more real. And so the Metaverse is kind of, think of it as like an umbrella term that represents this kind of interactive space that is powered by the web, that is both kind of protruding out into our physical world, as well as that which goes into the digital world, like into the virtual space. And you will be able to explore that and traverse that in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. Thank you for that. How can somebody sort of weed out the bad players and stick with the good players? I know this is not an advice show, but obviously some of the there's been market corrections. Is there any way to tell that in advance, or it's just dumb luck?
I mean, I don't want to say it's dumb luck. I think it's like in any way, you just have to be kind of savvy about what's out there. Look at a project, identify who's involved with it. Like if shady people are involved with it, then don't get involved with it. Or, and this is just, again, not financial advice, you could just stay invested in the underlying mechanisms. Like Ethereum, the Ethereum world computer will be what supports all of these other tokens and things like that. So it has utility. It will always have utility because people have to use it. Now, you and I, we could create some sort of token on the Ethereum world computer and our business could go kaput, right? And that token no longer has any value. But that doesn't cause the Ethereum world computer to go down. There's lots of other things that are being built on top of it. And so it will always kind of like have that utility. And so I guess, like just look at a project and look at what it's providing and try to think about what utility it provides and if it's something that you think is sustainable. Now, another thing that I think we should be mentioned here, and I don't know how much time we have here before I think it cuts off, but there's this thing called DAOs, Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. And this is a big thing to kind of look at right now. DAOs are a way for people from all over the world to come together and work on a project together by basically creating a token that is used as their voting and their own economy. So there is a world in the Metaverse called Decentraland. Decentraland is built basically on top of the Ethereum world computer. It's a finite virtual space. There's only 90,000 parcels in it. You can own a parcel by buying it as an NFT, and if you own that NFT, you are able to build things on it. But you don't have to buy stuff. You can still go there and you can walk around and interact with things that are there. Now, Decentraland is a DAO, and their underlying token is called Mana, M-A-N-A. And so to buy an NFT of land in Decentraland, you have to buy it with Mana. To buy any goods while you are walking around Decentraland, you have to use Mana. If you are part of the Decentraland DAO in terms of making decisions on what will get developed, what kind of bugs need to be fixed, should we take on a new marketing, campaign, that kind of thing, you vote on these proposals with Mana. And so it's a way for projects to become decentralized, democratized, and have their own economy that is used to pay contractors and things to do things. For example, this is what I used to do. This is how I got into this. I would approach these teams, these DAOs, and say, my name is Geoff Robertson. My background is in human factors and applied cognitive psychology. I've worked as a user experience researcher for many years. I can help you design things. I can help you test things for usability. this is what I would charge. You would pay me in your cryptocurrency, and I would provide you with these services. And the DAO, the team, would vote on whether or not my proposal would be picked up or not. And if it got picked up, I would get paid in that cryptocurrency, and I would do my work. Now, what I did with that cryptocurrency later on, it doesn't really matter, but that's just how that operates. So you have a way of paying your work with this token. You have a way of voting democratically with this token, and it gets used for any other purposes that exist within your project.
So you're bartering, but you're not necessarily just bartering for something with a dollar equivalent. You're also getting a part in a community. You're getting a vote in sort of a cooperative, and possibly it's a financial gain, but if not, it gives you access to this metaverse where you can enjoy whatever is offered in that metaverse by using just the exchange of these bitcoins, that these tokens that you already have.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it gives you access. I mean, in some ways it does, because you could buy tokens that allow you to enter a certain building. But again, go back to the analogy of going to Europe. You can go to Europe and not pay a dime. You know what I mean? You can just show up. That doesn't mean you have to pay for anything. So you can go into Decentraland, which is just one of many of these worlds, right? And not buy anything. You don't need mana. But while you're there, if you want to buy something, you go into one of these virtual stores and you want to buy a new outfit for your avatar, you would have to pay in mana.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you got mana, you've got the Israelites moving around the Sinai for 40 years, and
mana from heaven, yeah.
Eventually going to get to Eden, I suppose. Work the way all the way backwards. So we'll come full circle that Eden will be in the cyberverse. So, all right. I think I understand it a little bit better. I think I understand why there's been volatility. I think some of it sounds like it's part of this cyber winter that's predictable and fits a pattern. It's also part of the overall economic picture in the world. And it's also because it's new, there's been some maybe not great players or people with not great plans. And, the market is shaking some of them out of there. But the survivors, the base is still working, especially if you buy into it as a long-term or forever thing more than, like a share of Apple that you want to buy it at 100 and sell it for 150.
Again, I try not to promote anything from a financial standpoint, but I will say this, like the Bitcoin that I've bought or purchased, I'm not buying for myself. I'm buying for my grandkids, and I don't even have kids yet. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm looking at here in terms of trajectory, is that down in the future, this is how the economy might be working, given how much there's a lot of advantageousness to this stuff and having these world computers keep track of things. That down the line, if you look at our species and our trajectory, like it would make sense that we have some sort of like world computer that keeps track of things for us.
Well, fortune does favor the brave, or so they tell me. So it could be that, or the bold. Doesn't have to be the brave. Not always the same thing. It's almost like if you believe that Elon Musk is going to get Mars and he's selling deeds to land, you can buy it. Maybe it won't be worth anything one day, but if he does become king of Mars, you're going to get yourself a barony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that close? Is that at all close, or is that completely?
I mean, in a way, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't know if it's going to happen or not. But if it does, then you'd be very happy that you got involved early on.
Are you interested in our own little metaverse? It's not Decentraland, but is Geoff Zikistan?
I believe that we are already in the metaverse, and that this is all just a simulation.
All right, Geoff Zikistan with a J though, not a G.
Sure.
Okay, so you're on that. All right. Well, that's excellent. That was a shrewd negotiation on my part. So Geoff Zikistan is going to be real in the metaverse if you just believe. Thank you, Geoff. I know that we're running short on the Zoom time. I'm going to have to listen back to this a few times to digest it, but hopefully the listeners, they weren't trying to think of their own questions and things like that and follow-ups. So hopefully they got it better than I did. And when I go back, I'll digest it. But I also tend not to think in 3 dimensions, period. So math has always been a hard concept for me. For those of you who are brighter that way, again, if you listen to both shows, I think together they make a lot more sense to you than this one independently.
Watch the movie Ready Player One, or read the book. That can give you an idea of kind of like what the metaverse might be.
Not the Matrix?
Or the Matrix, I mean, yeah. the Matrix is what? The metaverse that we're not aware we're in. But, yeah, I mean, just to kind of get an idea of, like, what it might mean to traverse different worlds in some sort of virtual sense. You watch the movie Ready Player One. It'll kind of help out.
Okay. Well, all right. That sounds like a decent homework assignment. All right. Thanks very much for everything. We may reach out to you again, and I appreciate your time and your expertise as always.
Sure thing.
All right. Thanks so much, and thanks for everybody for tuning in to Garden Views, and you will hear from us next week.
Wow. Secretary Yellen, it was an honor to have you with us today.
Well, it was my pleasure, Professor. It's always nice to speak to aspiring economists.
Do we have time for one more question?
Hey, I don't have anywhere to be.
All right. Anyone have a question? Come on, guys. The Secretary of Treasury is right next to us. Yes. You, young man.
Two Silicon boys were talking outside, talking outside, talking outside.
Okay, and so what is your question?
Two Silicon boys were talking outside, talking outside, talking outside.
Yeah, I heard you the first time.
Now what the hell's an NFT? Apparently cryptocurrency. Everyone's making so much money. Can you please explain what's an NFT? I said, what the hell's an NFT? It's like real life Monopoly. Everyone is doing it like Gronkowski. Can you please help me make an NFT?
Son, I didn't understand a word you just said.
Hey, thanks.
That is not a compliment.
I disagree.
I actually see what you're saying, young man. We are aware of NFTs, and they are currently...
I can break it down for you.
I'm sorry, are you Morpheus from the Matrix film series?
No, but I do have pills if you need some. Anyway, the thing about NFTs is...
Non-fungible. Use a rhyme for eating Lunchables. A picture Colin Joseph's face. Very punchable. Digital images, Digimon doing scrimmages. Or a pick of a note with the Nintendo Switch. Dictionary with the pick of Fat Jerry. I made it last night and now I got $3,000. And now I can buy me a gift for Peter Griffin crossing up all-star ballers who are taller. Look at these, if you please. Supreme Court Justice Chuck E. Cheese. Grandma Jabber and a Mini Cooper Master Splinter. Amy Cooper, Adam Driver having dinner. Hey, here's a Thanos that works for 24 million. It could be yours, and the prices go up and down, you see. So that explains an NFT.
Okay, well, that was just a list of complete nonsense, but you're not totally wrong. Can anyone here expound on that a bit more eloquently? Anyone? What about you, man with the mop?
Who, me? Well, I wasn't really paying attention, but if I had to explain NFTs, I'd probably say that... Hey, here's the thing about NFTs. It's a non-fungible token, you see. Non-fungible means that it's unique. There can only be one like you and me. NFTs are insane. Built on a blockchain. That's right. A digital ledger of transactions. It records information on what's happening. When it's minted, you can sell it as art. And this concludes my rapping part.
Wow, that's pretty much what I would have said, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know if this is too forward, but I actually have tickets for UFC 260 if you guys want to come.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Great.